when a rich man opens his door at midnight. You won't believe what he sees in the rain. The clock had just struck 12. A thick blanket of clouds hung low in the sky, and the downpour tapped against the window like frantic fingers begging for attention. Inside, Alexander Vandermeer, a prosperous man used to lavish dinners and flashy parties, contemplated the shadows flickering ominously around his opulent home. He was no stranger to the strange, but this night felt different, heavy with an electrifying tension. As he paced the marble floor, each echoing footstep made his heart race faster, anticipation clawing at his chest. The soft glow from the chandelier cast an eerie light, illuminating the gold-framed paintings of his ancestors, their eyes boring into him with accusations. He felt a shiver run down his spine. Why was he suddenly uneasy in his own fortress? Outside, the wind howled like a wounded beast, rattling the window panes and making the ornate curtains dance wildly. A fleeting thought crept into his mind. What if something was out there? Something that wanted and something malevolent. Then, without warning, a knock shattered the thick silence, a percussive jolt that made him jump. It wasn't the polite tap of a visitor's hand. It sounded urgent, desperate. He froze, staring at the elaborate door that stood between him and the unknown. His gut twisted, a lump forming in his throat. Who could be out there in this storm? He hesitated, fear mingling with curiosity as he eyed the door, shrouded in darkness. Hesitant, but driven by an insatiable need to know, he stepped toward it. He gripped the handle, his hand trembling slightly. The raindrops fell faster, almost as if the universe itself was coaxing him forward, teasing him with the promise of revelation. Just as he was about to swing the door open, he caught a flicker of movement outside. A figure stood in the downpour, barely illuminated by the dim porch light, blurred features, soaked to the bone. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He opened the door with a creak, the rush of cool air hitting him like a tidal wave. The rain lashed against his face as he squinted into the storm, his heart pounding in his ears. The figure stood still, head bowed, hair plastered to a pale face. Was it a man or a woman? Their clothes were tattered, clinging to them like a second skin, dripping with water, glistening in the sparse light. Please, a voice rasped, cutting through the torrent of sound. I need your help. It's all coming for me. Each word dripped with fear, a chill racing down Alexander's spine. The urgency in their tone held a warning, a portent of doom that made the atmosphere crackle with tension. They won't stop. He felt the weight of countless eyes boring into him again. And as he took a step back, the porch light flickered ominously, casting long shadows that danced on the ground. Who was this desperate soul? And why did it feel as though answering their plea would unlock a door he could never close again? A gripping dread pooled in his stomach, begging him to take action. The storm raged louder, a chorus of despair echoing the dark prophecy in their words. The rain continued to fall, but something behind them was stirring, shifting in the night. The stranger took a step forward, water pooling around their feet, and Alexander's breath hitched in his throat. What is coming for you? He demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. But the words felt hollow, tumbling into the void of the raging storm around them. It's too late, the figure murmured, lifting their head slightly. Rain cascaded off their chin, revealing wide, terrified eyes that seemed to see right through him. There was recognition there, a flicker of something he couldn't place, a connection that sent a tremor through his bones. They're already here. His heart raced. Was it fear or instinct driving him now? Every logical thought battled in his mind to shut the door and retreat into the warmth of his home, but every instinct clawed to pull him outside, to save this soul, whatever danger lay behind them. The wind screamed as if urging him, and he felt a strange bond forming with this soaked wanderer, one tied to shared vulnerability. Just as he opened his mouth to ask what he could do, a piercing shriek cut through the storm. It wasn't the wind. It came from somewhere down the street, echoing off the damp pavement. The stranger's body tensed, and they dropped their gaze, breaths coming in frantic spurts. "Do you hear that?" they gasped. "They've found me." Panic surged through Alexander, freezing him in place. He had heard the tales, ghost stories, rumors of hauntings long dismissed as myth. But this felt real, more immediate, and the shadows beyond the porch started to deepen, coiling like tendrils eager to consume the night. "Get inside," he urged, waving them into his home. But the figure flinched at the invitation, as though stepping over the threshold were akin to sealing their fate. "Please, you don't understand. This isn't just rain and wind. They bring a darkness that will swallow the soul." "Who?" Alexander hushed, his voice rising above the storm. Shadows danced at the edges of his vision, blurring the line of the visible world and the one lurking beneath it. "Who is coming for you?" His heart slammed against his ribcage, each thud urging him to take control of this surreal encounter. "They were the faces of those you know," the figure said, thin fingers gripping the doorframe. "They look just like them, your friends, your family. They coax you into trust, while all along their purpose is to extinguish will." The shadows flickered as if in agreement with the stranger's words, each heartbeat echoing a sinister confirmation. A chill ran down Alexander's spine. He thought of his brother, long estranged, and the unsettling dreams that had haunted him of late. What if it wasn't just his mind? Another scream erupted, this time closer, shattering his thoughts. The figure jolted, terror painting their features, and instinct kicked in. Alexander stepped back from the door, urging them forward. "Come in, we can figure this out together." But before they could take a single step inside, the rain seemed to part, and a figure emerged from the dark curtain of water. Tall, looming, with unmistakably familiar features. Alexander's mind raced as he tried to place the face, the familiarity twisting into dread. "No, it can't be." A second figure appeared beside the first, a sinister smile stretching across their lips. "Oh, Alex," the first one called, voice dripping with mockery. "You really should know better than to let strangers into your home." The reality of the night deepened into a nightmare. What had he done? The door stood wide open, his sanctuary breached, and the storm raged on, pulling them all into its chaotic embrace. And then he realized, in the frantic chaos enveloping his senses, whoever these figures were, they were not here just for the stranger. They were here for him too. As panic took hold, the stranger's hand shot out, desperation igniting their gaze. "We need to leave. Now." But it felt too late. The darkness poured in, swallowing his home one looming silhouette at a time. Had he let them in too far? Would there be any escape from the mirrors of his past? A silence fell, heavy and ominous, as the ethereal and the familiar converged. And with it, the question loomed larger than life. Who would stand to protect him when the shadows revealed their truth? The air crackled with tension, thick with dread as the faces materialized through the deluge. The first figure, unmistakably his brother, grinned with a malevolent twist, eyes glinting in the half-light. Memories wove around Alexander like chains, heavy and unforgiving. This was the brother who'd turned his back, the one who made choices that tore their family apart. "Alex, have you missed me?" the figure mocked, laughter mingling with the sound of thunder, echoing in the depths of his mind. "Stay back," Alexander shouted, but his voice wavered. He glanced at the stranger beside him, their hand trembling, eyes wide with fear. They were right. He had been careless. The door was still open, a gateway to hell. "Don't listen to him," the stranger yelled, their voice a desperate plea over the relentless storm. "That's not your brother anymore." But the shadows were growing bolder, swirling around them, beckoning with deceptive familiarity. The second figure, grotesque now, morphed into the shape of a friend from high school. The air filled with a cacophony of taunts, memories dredging up guilt like a flood. "Remember good old times, Alex?" The second figure crooned, a grotesque imitation of joy. "Why fight it? We only want to guide you home." With every step they took toward him, the ground beneath their feet shifted, absorbing the weight of his memories and magnifying his nightmares. Alexander's heart pounded in his chest, a chaotic beat that drowned out the chaos around him. He couldn't think straight. His sanctuary was treacherously close to collapsing. "They'll trick you," the stranger insisted, arms raised as if to shield Alexander from the onslaught of conjured faces. "They want your will. Don't let them in." A scream erupted again, echoing, wailing from the abyss, pulling at the corners of reason. Shadows crawled closer, tantalizing truths hidden within their depths that promised safety and acceptance. But at what cost? Don't you want to be free, Alex? His brother pressed. All that pain, they lift it from you. Just step forward. Let us in. Let us help. The stranger pulled at Alexander's sleeve, and he felt a rush of heat life against the encroaching cold. Fight it, they shouted, the force of their words cutting through the mist of manipulation. Instinctively, Alexander stepped back, trying to distance himself from their creeping grasp. I don't want this, he cried, his voice rising, desperate yet fierce. You aren't real. But with every heartbeat, doubt seeped in like water to a sponge. The figures froze for a moment, faces warped and sinister, their laughter the buzzing of 1,000 angry wasps. A low hiss followed, like steam escaping a kettle, as they shared a knowing glance. A pact formed in darkness. No, Alex. You are the one who isn't real. His brother's voice morphed into a slithering riddle. You're just running from the truth. With a sudden burst of clarity, Alexander understood. The shadows were not merely specters of his past. They were reflections of what he feared most, the pain of acceptance, the burden of unresolved guilt. Tell me what to do, he pleaded, looking to the stranger for guidance. We have to break the cycle. They glanced at the approaching figures, the weight of their task hanging heavily in the air. To rid them, you must let go of everything they carry. Only then can we fight back. But what did letting go even mean? The storm continued to lash around them, the howling wind a reminder of the danger encroaching. Suddenly, the world tipped. The whispers escalated, drowning him in their relentless symphony. Alexander felt himself spiraling, drawn toward the figures who were so familiar, yet utterly alien. They reached out, beckoning him with sinister warmth. In that moment, desperation clawed at his insides. The answer buried within felt just out of reach. Could he truly sever these ties that had defined him for so long? Alex, we don't have much time, the stranger cried, urgency snapping him back to the moment. And as the figures surged closer, darkness thickened around them. He could almost taste the choices ahead. Perhaps there was a way to confront both his past and this looming threat. Was he strong enough to face the truth? He took a deep breath, every fiber of his being bracing for what was to come. The night was far from over, and the storm was only just beginning to reveal its fury. But as the first cruel touch of shadow closed in again, a realization washed over him. What else could he lose? Would he choose to stand, or would he surrender to the whispers of the storm? And what awaited him on the other side of that choice? The darkness pressed in like a suffocating blanket, and Alexander's heart raced as he fought the encroaching shadows. His brother's grin twisted further, delighting in his distress, as if each tremor of fear fed the darkness itself. The grotesque figure of his high school friend loomed larger now, laughing, the sound sharp and jagged against the pounding rain. Just give in, Alex, the figures whispered in unison, their voices melding into a sickly sweet chorus that echoed in his ear. You don't have to fight anymore. We can show you how to forget. Stop, he screamed, shaking his head violently as if to dislodge their words. But instead of distance, the shadows closed in, their cold fingers brushing against his skin and tugging at the fraying edges of his sanity. The presence of the stranger beside him grew more significant, their grip tightening on his arm, an anchor in the tempest. Let go of what they bind you to, the stranger shouted, eyes fierce despite the danger. You've carried those memories too long. It's time to release them. But those shadows were so real. The faces twisted and morphed, teasing him with fragments of nostalgia and regret. He could feel the raw ache of lost moments, unhealed wounds lacing each remembered laugh. He struggled to sort through them, to find the marrow of the truth amidst the thorns of his past. I can't, he gasped, nearly collapsing under the weight of the memories. What if this is all I have left? Is it worth your soul? The stranger shot back, desperation tinged with fire. These are illusions, Alex. They want to keep you trapped forever. You did not murder your ties. You must embrace your pain to break free. Only then can we confront them. Fear coiled in his gut, twisting into knots. What if letting go destroys me? Or what if holding on destroys everything you hope to be? The weight of their words struck harder than the rain, a stark juxtaposition against the obsessive whispers demanding surrender. A spark of defiance ignited within him, flickering but resolute. Life was made of choices, and it was time to choose. "Listen to me," he shouted, voice echoing against the thunder. "I am not the mistakes I've made. I am not the past that haunts me." The shadows recoiled, their forms flickering as if they were mere candle flames caught in a gust. Confidence surged through him. He pulled the stranger closer, feeling the warmth of their belief fortify his resolve. "Yes, Alex," they encouraged, voice steady. "Don't let them gain the upper hand. It's stronger than you think." Ignoring the taunts swirling around him, he closed his eyes, conjuring a feeling, a memory too precious to lose, a smile that brought light to his darkest days. And then he understood. Letting go didn't mean losing everything. It meant releasing the chains that bound him. He could free the parts of him that deserved to live without torment. "I am more," he bellowed, the primal roar erupting from deep within his chest. It wrapped around him, hardening like armor. "I refuse to be your puppet." With every toll of thunder, he felt the presence of the figments crack, the darkness weakening as his voice rose higher. Light surged through him, illuminating the corners where shadows lurked. The figures began to scream, horrified, furious, their faces contorting into expressions of pure rage. The laughter faltered, replaced by shouts of betrayal. Alexander's heart thundered like the storm above as he opened his eyes and gripped the stranger's hand tight. He could feel the surge of liberation, an electric hum coursing from his core to the tips of his fingers. "Now," the stranger yelled, eyes ablaze with determination. "Let it go? Cast them out." And with a final, shattering scream, Alexander willed every chain of memory, every taunting whisper, to release him. A deafening silence followed as he stood amidst the wreckage of his past, breathless and wide-eyed, staring into the clearing storm. The figures faded into wisps of smoke, their screams echoing faintly in the distance. But before he could process the weight of his release, a shadow lurked at the edge of the dissipating storm. It flickered ominously, reshaping itself into something far darker than before, a figure yet unseen, looming, and ready to confront him. Who was this intruder? What new threat awaited him, now that he had claimed a piece of his freedom? The figure advanced, shrouded in pulsating shadows, merging with the darkness like a predator readying for its hunt. Alexander's breath caught in his throat as he squinted into the murky depths. Each heartbeat thudded louder, a primal drum against the ominous silence surrounding him. The stranger beside him tightened their grip, their knuckles white, eyes wide with both fear and determination. "What are you?" Alexander stammered, trying to contain the tremor creeping into his voice. The figure paused, a voice deep and resonant weaving through the air. "I am the remnant of your forgotten fears, the truth you've buried deep. I've come to remind you of your darkest hour." A chill snaked down Alexander's spine. The words stung sharper than the rain that pelted his skin, each drop a cold reminder of what he thought he had released. Memories flickered in the corners of his mind, failures, betrayals, the faces of those he had hurt. "Stop it," he cried, shaking his head violently again, trying to break free from the mental assault. "You're wrong. I've let them go." The figure tilted its head, a grotesque mimic of curiosity. "Have you truly? Or have you merely masked the pain behind false courage? I am not here to play games. I am the storm you can't escape." Hope fluttered within him, each moment of connection to the stranger beside him a lifeline. "You're just a shadow and echo. I'm stronger than you think." A mocking laugh exploded into the stillness, sending ripples of unease through the air. "Strength? Is that what you call this facade? You can still taste the bitterness when your heart beats. You're nothing without your past, Alex. It shapes you, consumes you." Suddenly, the echoes of laughter wrapped around him, familiar faces swirling in the darkness, a twisted reunion of his mistakes. He stumbled back, fighting against the pulls of grief and regret. Underneath it all, shame threatened to drown him. "What do you want?" he snapped, the anger swelling against the tide of despair. "To see you squirm," the figure hissed, its shape shifting as if made from liquid midnight. "To remind you there's no escaping who you are." Just then, the stranger beside him stepped forward, defiant. "You can't have him. He will not succumb to you." Their voice rang with fierce authority, a beacon of clarity cutting through the noise surrounding them. The figure recoiled, anger ignited in the air. "Foolish child. You do not understand the power of what you defend. You cannot protect him from me. Then let him see you for what you truly are. Let him face the truth. The stranger demanded, tilting their chin defiantly. The atmosphere shifted, and with a crack of thunder, the figure exploded into a tapestry of shadows, revealing flashes of Alexander's darkest moments, his failures, the pain of distant memories, the hurt he inflicted on his loved ones. Each image burned bright but weighed heavy, clawing at his chest. Face them, Alexander, the stranger urged, fire glowing in their eyes. Face them and reclaim your strength. With every ounce of resolve, Alexander stood tall, emotions washing over him like waves. Pain thundered through him, but it didn't suffocate. Instead, it fueled him. I will not hide, he roared, the echoes of his past dissolving under the intensity of his conviction. But the figure wasn't finished. Then you will drown in them. It spat, and the shadows coalesced, ready to engulf him once more. Just as it lunged, Alexander's heart raced with a new flame. He reached within, taking the pain in his hands, fragile yet resilient. I am more than you, he shouted, and a surge of light exploded from his core, breaking the shadows apart like glass under pressure. But it surged right back, the darkness refusing to yield easily, and Alexander felt his footing falter. Just as he thought he could stand firm against the tide, a new sound rose above the chaos, a whisper like silk, yet cutting deep. Remember him, your truth is waiting. As the shadow writhed and twisted, Alexander caught a glimpse in the void, something stirring within the depths. What truth remained hidden? With the storm raging around him, uncertainty gripped him tight. What did that voice mean? Who exactly was waiting for him to discover the next piece of his past? The shadows twisted relentlessly, urging Alexander to lose himself in the chaos. But instead, something deep inside him ignited a stubborn will to fight against the tide of despair. The flickering memories flared and faded, but there was one he needed to hold on to, one that shimmered brighter than the rest, shrouded in a golden hue amid the gloom. Focus, the stranger shouted, their voice slicing through the mounting torrent. Find the truth. With clenched fists, Alexander squinted into the swirling darkness where the voice had come from. What truth? What am I missing? Look deeper, the stranger pressed, stepping beside him as the chaos writhed and hissed. Their presence felt like solid ground beneath his shaking feet. It's not only about your failures, it's about hope. The hope that what you desire and fear can coexist. As the shadows threatened to pull him under, Alexander took a leap of faith. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, summoning the specific moment, the face of someone he had loved and lost. Sarah. Her laugh rang like music in his mind. The warmth of her smile washed over him, igniting a flicker of light within his chest. He had been avoiding this memory, afraid of the pain, but now, it felt like a life raft amidst the tempest. In seconds, the darkness clamored and roared, its grip tightening. Yet as he focused on Sarah, the shadows faltered for just a heartbeat. The haunting echoes began to shift, dissolving under the brilliance of love woven through grief. He whispered her name, letting it reverberate through the chaos. Sarah. A blast of wind surged through him, and a burst of light erupted, pushing the shadows back like a rising tide. Suddenly, within the chaotic folds, a shining figure began to materialize through the mist. Sarah's face, radiant with a serene smile. Her eyes sparkled with understanding. Alexander, she breathed, her voice soft yet firm. You have to remember that pain and love are intertwined. They shape you, but they do not define you. You have strength waiting to resonate within you. Sarah. His voice broke, the wave of emotion crashing as tears pooled in his eyes. I'm so sorry. I thought I lost you. I thought I had to forget. You have to embrace me, she murmured, almost echoing in the tempest. Only then can you break free from the chains of regret. The figure beside him squeezed his arm, urging him silently, their presence grounding. Alexander's heart raced faster. How could he reconcile pain, loss, and love? Embrace the storm, the stranger insisted, their voice unwavering against the noise. Face it. Only then can you be free. With a determined breath, Alexander stepped forward into the chaos, letting his love for Sarah wash over the pain like a cleansing rain. Fine. I accept it. He roared into the howling tempest. I will not hide from my memories. I will not hide from who I am. I embrace it all. In an instant, the light exploded from him, brighter than anything he had ever felt, and the darkness shrieked, recoiling in defeat. It unraveled, scattering into the corners of his mind like ashes from a fading fire, revealing clarity in the aftermath. Yet as silence fell, the air thick with the weight of revelation, something else emerged, a flicker of doubt. What if embracing it all wasn't enough? What if the storm had merely retreated, biding its time? In the eye of that newfound calmness, that fearful whisper crept back, chilling his veins. But are you really ready to face what you've unleashed? What indeed lay beneath that surface of acceptance? What new chapter would unfold as the shadows writhed and whispered at the edges of his consciousness? The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating, as Alexander stood amidst the remnants of the shadows. His heart raced with trepidation, the weight of acceptance pressing against his chest. The lingering calm felt deceptive, as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for the next twist in this dark tapestry of emotions. Are you ready? The stranger's voice broke the stillness, urgent yet steady. They peered into Alexander's eyes, searching for cracks in his steely resolve. There's much more to learn. Are you willing to confront what lurks beneath? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Alexander swallowed hard, his throat tight. Memories of Sarah flashed vividly, her laughter, her warmth. It was a bittersweet joy now, a glimpse of light intertwined with the shadows of what he had lost. But could he truly bear the weight of every lost moment? I can't let fear rule me, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. He turned away from the fading glow of Sarah's apparition and stared into the darkness that had crept back, hungry and whispering. The shadows swirled again, a tempest of voices, secrets pressing against him. You don't know what you're asking for, they hissed, filling his mind with cold dread. What if the truth is more than you can handle? Enough, Alexander shouted, shaking his head furiously. I won't be paralyzed by your lies. With sudden ferocity, he stepped toward the deepest darkness, forcing the tumultuous shadows to part. As they did, Alexander felt a jolt of energy surge through him, a current of defiance that sent shivers down his spine. But when the shadows thinned, what lay before him was a sight that rocked him to his core. A door stood ajar, framed in darkness, glistening as if touched by the rain that now fell in a torrential downpour. In the dim light spilling from within, he could make out an outline, a figure that felt uncannily familiar. A flicker of recognition flashed across his mind. It was a memory he'd long buried. Get away from there, the stranger shouted, their voice tinged with urgency and fear. Ignoring the warning, Alexander stepped closer, heart pounding. The rain washed over him, cold and real, bringing clarity amidst the chaos. He reached for the door, marveling at the surreal juxtaposition of its quiet elegance against the storm raging outside. As he slowly pushed it open, a rush of wind swept past, as if trying to snatch away the moment. His breath caught in his throat. There, illuminated by dim light, was a face he never thought he would see again, his father. Alexander, you've finally come home, his father murmured, a mix of joy and sorrow etched into his features. Stunned, Alexander felt the ground shift beneath him. After years of estrangement, the bitter pain of memories wove through him like a haunting melody. Each word his father spoke unfurled hidden emotions, years of resentment and longing battling within. Why now? Why here? Alexander's voice trembled, thick with a mix of anger and confusion. Because this is where the truth begins, his father replied, inches away, but shadows still lingered behind him. You must decide if you're ready to move forward or if you'll let the past continue to pull you under. Shockwaves rippled through Alexander. Could this moment truly be the key to breaking free? Or was it just another trap laid by the darkness? Are you going to step inside? The stranger urged, tension building with every passing second. Alexander hesitated, fear and longing battling within him. What if I can't handle what waits inside? Before he could take a step back, thunder rumbled overhead, vibrating through him. The rain poured harder, drowning out any further hesitation. The shadows twisted and thrummed with anticipation. What would he choose? Would he confront his father and the painful memories that came with him, or would he retreat into the safety of uncertainty? As Alexander's heart raced, a new sense of resolve sparked within. "Let us find out," he whispered, crossing the threshold into the unknown. The door creaked as it swung wide, inviting him further into the revelation. But as he stepped through, a whisper echoed behind him, chilling and insistent. "You may awaken a storm far worse than you can imagine." What storm awaited him on the other side? The moment Alexander crossed the threshold, the air shifted. The familiar scent of aged wood and burnt memories enveloped him, thick like a fog, but instead of being comforting, it was suffocating. His father's figure remained in the dim light, but the room around them twisted with shadows that seemed to dance with malice. The door clattered shut behind him, sealing off the chaos outside. The ambience within was eerily calm, too calm, like a still lake before a storm. Alexander took a hesitant step forward, the flooring creaking underfoot, each sound amplified in the heavy silence. He could see his father more clearly now. "Why did you leave us?" Alexander's voice cracked, emotion spilling from the edges of his resolve. "So many years wasted, you think it's that simple?" His father replied, pain etched in every line of his weathered face. "You think I wanted to? I was trying to protect you." The words hung heavy between them, and Alexander felt the weight of guilt creep in. Seconds stretched into minutes as memories surged to the forefront. Family dinners filled with laughter shattered by unspoken words, holidays that felt incomplete. The day everything fell apart, like ash scattered in the wind. "Protect me? Or protect yourself?" Alexander spat, frustration boiling over. "You weren't there when I needed you. Nothing can excuse that." With each exchanged word, the shadows seemed to pulse, drawing tighter around him. He could feel them creeping closer, as if they were eager to burrow into his soul. "Listen to me," his father said, stepping closer, a desperate urgency in his voice. "What I did, what happened, it's all connected to something bigger than you or me. It's about the darkness that binds us. And it wasn't just my choice." Suddenly, the walls shuddered, as if the very structure of their past was responding to their confrontation. An unsettling energy filled the room. Alexander's heart raced as he spun around, half expecting to see a malevolent entity lurking in the shadows. But there was nothing, just the oppressive weight of unaddressed pain and buried secrets. "What do you mean connected?" Alexander pressed. "You're saying I'm part of this?" "Yes, we all are," his father urged, voice rising. "Our family binds us not just in love, but in consequence. Every choice has a ripple. Some choices have consequences that linger beyond this realm. You need to know the truth to break the cycle." A vision crept into Alexander's mind. Shadows stretching across generations, secrets binding them together in a dark web that felt unbreakable. The storm he had dared to enter had come alive within him. "Then tell me," he demanded, desperation seeping into every syllable. "What am I supposed to do?" "First, you have to confront your own fears," his father said, stepping back slightly, his expression a mix of regret and pleading. "They're what give this darkness power. Only by confronting them can we begin to break free." As he spoke, the shadows began to swirl more violently, a tempest of dark forms charging closer. A shriek echoed through the room, an anguished sound that resonated with Alexander's own buried pain. He stumbled back, caught off guard. What was that? The cost of denial. The stranger shouted from behind him, voice alarmed. "You can't turn away now, or you'll lose everything." As the shadows lunged, Alexander clenched his fists, feeling the tumult of anger and vulnerability crash against him. He needed to face the truth, no matter how terrifying it was. He had come too far. "Then show me," he shouted, determination igniting within him. "I'm ready to see it all." The room quaked, and the darkness responded with a ferocious howling, a whirlwind of rage and agony swirling around him. Suddenly, memories ripped through the shadows. Faces, voices, emotions flooding him with visions of past wounds and buried truths. Who would he face first? As the room erupted into chaos, the only thing he knew for certain was that he stood at the precipice of a storm greater than he could ever imagine. A sharp crack of thunder shook the foundation. The last words of his father echoed. In his mind, "You have to face what you've hidden." But would he find redemption or destruction in that storm? What awaited him as the tempest swirled dangerously close? The shadows roared to life, each one clawing at Alexander, demanding to be acknowledged. He felt them as cold tendrils wrapping around his limbs, pulling him into their dark embrace. Dread poured through him like ice water, freezing his breath. He stood at the center of that chaos, heart pounding in rhythm with the storm outside. "Fight them," his father urged, desperation lacing his voice. "You have to summon your strength." Alexander clenched his fists tighter, blinking away tears that threatened to spill. "How?" he cried, voice strained with unshed memories. "How do I fight something I can't even see?" The wind swirled even faster, bringing whispers, ghostly echoes of laughter and sorrow. They intermingled, weaving a tapestry of regret that hung heavy in the air. With every pulse of the shadows, Alexander's heart felt heavier, as if the weight of his family's past lay upon him like a shroud. "Look deeper," his father shouted, his eyes wide with urgency. "Within the storm lies your truth. Find the heart of it, face it." Alexander's breath quickened. He had spent years running from the truth, burying painful memories beneath layers of stubbornness and denial. But now, he could feel his fears unraveling around him. The shadows didn't just come from his father's past. They belonged to him too. Suddenly, a hot flash of anger broke through the icy grip of despair. He thought of rejection, the countless times he felt abandoned, like a ghost haunting memories. Each moment stirred within him, a fire igniting. "I won't be afraid anymore," he shouted into the swirling void. The darkness seemed to pause, quivering as if contemplating the weight of his declaration that in an instant, scenes burst forth with clarity: his mother's tears, his father's absence during childhood milestones, the endless nights of solitude. He could see a boy overwhelmed, arms extended for comfort, but met with distance instead. The ache became palpable, a knife stabbing into his gut. "Focus, Alexander. Confront it," his father implored, the urgency rising in his voice. With a deep breath, Alexander turned inward. "I can't do this alone." The admission was broken, raw. "I need you. I need us to face this together." Then, like a light forcing its way through the cracks of despair, he felt a change. The shadows hesitated, and in that moment of vulnerability, clarity struck. They were not just chains binding him, they were reflections of all he had endured, and all that still held him captive. "Show me," he demanded, casting his voice into the shadows again. "Show me everything." The world twisted painfully, and suddenly he was plunged into a memory he thought forgotten: a blustery night, rain lashing against the windows. He saw himself standing in that old living room, staring up into his father's stern face, both of them silent amidst the storm. What had they left unspoken? What lights had they let fade into darkness? And then, a figure materialized. A younger version of himself, eyes wide with longing, filled with the naive hope of a child. The boy looked up at him, desperate for love, desperate to bridge the chasm that separated them. Tears blurred Alexander's vision as he reached out. "I'm here," he whispered, voice cracking. "I see you. I hear you." Thunder echoed, shaking the foundations of reality as the shadows shrieked. They writhed, and in response, Alexander felt a warmth spreading through him, dissolving the vitality of fear, replacing it with compassion. They were still swirling around him, but now they were no longer menacing. They sang of stories untold, of grief and reconciliation. "Together," Alexander said, looking back at his father, "let us face our past together. Let us break this cycle once and for all." As they joined hands, the storm grew fiercer, but now, it felt like a cleansing rain rather than a tempest. Would they finally find peace, or would they be swept away in the swirling darkness? With the shadows closing in tighter, they prepared to confront the heart of their fears. Were they ready to step into the unknown abyss, or would the weight of their past drown them in? Despair? The truth loomed closer, and so did the harrowing question. What would they discover in the depths where shadows dared not venture? Alexander felt the weight of uncertainty settle around him like fog. The shadows undulated, drawn to him like moths to a flame, but now, with his father beside him, he held on to newfound resolve. They stood at the brink of something monumental, a chance to unearth the truth buried beneath layers of hurt and regret. Each heartbeat echoed louder than the last, as if the universe was waiting for them to act. The storm roared outside, its fury seeming to mirror the tumult within. "Together," he said again, squeezing his father's hand, sending a surge of determination coursing between them. "We can break this." In response, The shadows recoiled, almost shocked by their unity. It was as if acknowledging their bond weakened the darkness' grip. Taking a deep breath, Alexander shouted above the storm, "Show us our truth. We're ready to confront you." Instinctively, he and his father stepped forward into the storm of swirling memories, each step shaking the very fabric of the past. The room darkened, twisting into raw emotions. Faces of long-lost loved ones flashed before him, each one igniting a different storm of feeling: love, betrayal, despair, longing. He saw himself as a child, eyes wide with hope, reaching out for something more. "Please, let us in," he urged the shadows, desperation creeping into his voice. "We deserve to understand." Suddenly, the tempest quieted, a momentary calm settling over them like snow after a storm. It felt surreal, like breathing in the aftermath of chaos, a quiet that begged for resolution. The shadows merged, swirling into a vortex before them. Amidst the chaos, a figure emerged. It was his younger self, a boy trembling yet resilient, eyes filled with moments of unfiltered yearning. "I remember this moment," Alexander whispered, stepping closer. The boy looked back at him, a mirror reflecting all that he had tucked away. "What do you want from me?" he asked, softer now, as if connected by an invisible thread. "Don't let them forget." The child's voice broke through, innocent yet laced with sadness. "We need you to remember the love." As the boy spoke, other figures faded in beside him. There was Sarah, her smile radiant but tinged with the bittersweet quality of loss. And then, familiar friends, remnants of laughter that once filled his life. All around him, memories intertwined, lost joys and deep regrets, each one weighing like anchors against his chest. "Confront it, Alexander," his father's voice urged, strong and unyielding. "I'm trying," he shouted, as the storm surged again. "I want to break free." But the pain, his voice cracked, emotions spilling over, merging with the raindrops that tumbled against the window. "Choose to love, even through the hurt." The weight of Sarah's presence filled the space, echoing truth. "Only then can you conquer the darkness." In that moment, clarity struck. The memories were not chains. They were threads woven into the tapestry of his existence. The shadows transformed from menacing beasts into reflections of every choice he had made, every moment he had lived. They danced and whirled, and within their movement, he felt the echoes of the past calling for acknowledgement, not for the sake of shame, but for healing. With renewed strength, Alexander faced the darkness swirling before him. "I choose to embrace everything," he declared. "The love and the pain, the joys and the sorrows. I will not be defined by my regrets." The shadows surged, swirling in fury, but they trembled in response to his defiance. "No," they howled, distorted voices twisting together. But this time, he wasn't afraid. He stepped closer, driven by a force greater than fear and unyielding hope. "I claim my memories," he shouted, plunging his hand into the storm. "I will not forget the lessons learned, the love experienced, or the pain endured." Light exploded from his heart, spilling into the dark, washing away the remnants of shame and regret. Each burst of energy pushed the shadows back, their shrieks dissolving into silence. As the storm retreated, the air shifted, filled with a palpable sense of liberation. "Together," he whispered, looking at his father, and they joined hands once more. The storm might have lingered, but it was no longer a threat. We faced it all. The shadows faded, their power diminished, replaced by the warmth of acceptance and love. They had discovered the heart of their truth, and it was one of resilience, a testament that healing was possible. The last tendrils of darkness dissipated. Alexander felt lighter, washed anew. The storm outside softened, a gentle rain now falling against the window, calming and restorative. "There's something else we must address," the stranger said beside them, their voice filled with purpose. "Your journey doesn't end here." "What do you mean?" Alexander asked, looking between his father and the stranger, the shared understanding sparking curiosity. "Your truth is woven into more than just your past. It extends into your future," the stranger continued. "You possess a strength that can help others like you." "But how?" Alexander eyed his father, who nodded in encouragement. "Share your story," the stranger advised, a gentle insistence echoing in their words. "Your struggles, Your triumphs, they can inspire those still battling their own shadows. You hold the power to guide others toward healing. A warmth began to bloom in his chest. The thought of using his experience to help others instilled a sense of purpose, a legacy beyond his wounds. I can do that, he said, a smile breaking across his face. I can help them find their light. As clarity washed over him like sunlight breaking through the clouds, he glanced back at the now faded memories. They were part of him, a tapestry rich with color and texture, alive in his soul. Thank you, he breathed, turning to the stranger and then to his father, for showing me the way. The storm outside had transformed into a gentle rain, the kind that washes away the remnants of what no longer serves. He turned to face the world anew, ready to embrace the future ahead. Let us go share this, he said, hand on the door. In that moment, he felt a connection with the journey waiting beyond the threshold, one teeming with possibility, full of not just his past, but of hope for a brighter, more compassionate future. With one last look at the dim room, filled with faded memories, he stepped forward, opening the door to tomorrow. The world beyond beckoned, alive with promise and adventure, and his heart surged with the power of change. He embraced the rain as he stepped into the light, determined to illuminate the path for others, ready to share his story, and finally free to be the man he was always meant to become. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. Don't miss out. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Alexander's journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Let us spread the light.